Hi, and welcome to Monday, April 27th. I'm Michael Bean, owner and head coach at Biz Studio, and this is a confidence on camera online lesson tutorial. Today we're talking about story. So some of these keen young folks have had a copy of the script since Friday when we did our first ever Actors Challenge, and it's going to be fun to look through that today. The exciting news for the week is that casting director Jackie Lind is confirmed for this coming Friday. So just like with the lessons normally, I'll prioritize questions from folks who've been able to join us over the course of the week. Jackie casts a lot of stuff here in town. We'll look at her resume or her IMDb profile on Thursday when we do the industry lesson and talk about that in detail. But I'm really excited to have Jackie joining us. It's been quite some time since she came and sat in on my classes. And the Friday after, I have Chris Wadnazensky and Kara Edie, who are confirmed. And so that makes like 5 of the 9 casting directors in town who've come in as guests. And so hopefully I can use that to just entice the other ones, because it would be so great over the course of the next 6-7 weeks to get everybody in town to come in as a guest just for half an hour, so they can hear that all of them are experiencing the same things. You can see all of their faces and be like, oh, right, even the ones who I don't have an existing relationship with or who don't see me often for auditions, are real humans. And they're all kind of doing their best to navigate this, and each has their own preferences. And hopefully we'll hear little bits and pieces of those. So the script that we looked at on Friday and that I uploaded to Dropbox and put a link in is this one right here. It's from a project that at that time was called Captain Cook. But when we looked it up on IMDb, it didn't show up. Instead, it was on IMDb as Captain Cook's Extraordinary Atlas. It took a little bit of sleuthing to find that, but you can see it's right here and right here. And here it's even all capitalized like the title of a show. So it means that by the time this breakdown was done, possibly they were already thinking of it as Captain Cook's Extraordinary Atlas, and this was just short form or a shorthand for it. Sometimes you have to be even sneakier. Sometimes when a show is shooting in town, they will give it a code name so that people who are like super fans of that project don't swarm them. For instance, there was a project here in Vancouver that none of you probably would have seen auditions for, maybe, but on the breakdowns or on the Creative BC list, it was Radio Nowhere. But it was actually Stephen King's The Stand. And so that's, but it took some real sleuthing to find that out. I had to look up the producers who are on the Creative BC list and enter them into IMDb and then put them into search engines and find a variety article, because IMDb didn't have Radio Nowhere. But it's possible to put these things together, and it only takes a couple of minutes once you're used to it. Now, today we're talking camera technique. We've got Finn Malloy, extremely high Q, genius, eager to fit in, preternatural, we looked at last time. He's got an attachment to his foo-foo blanket. He discovers the Atlas he can't resist stealing it, and the consequences are terrifying. So scene 2 is the one we're looking at, the one with the terrifying consequences. So we always read the crossed out part of the script because it gives us extra information. What we've got here is Troll Bridge. Why did you go to the Troll Bridge? I didn't think it was real. You didn't leave anything behind, did you? No, wait, no, this is all I brought. Gwen looks down at Finn's feet. Uh-oh, Finn looks down. Oh man, Finn's only wearing one sneaker. Gwen's look says it all. Okay, so we know that he's stolen the Atlas. We know terrible things have happened. We know he went to the Troll Bridge. We know that he left something there and the troll's likely to show up. And so before the scene starts, they already know that a troll might be coming. So it's not, so one of the things understanding the story here is that it's not, I wonder what's downstairs. It's, oh my God, is that the troll we've been worried about? Interior Gwen Malloy's room, night later. Middle of the night, room shows signs of an abandoned vigil, flashlights Chips ahoy. Now we could look up the word vigil, obviously. They got bored and fell asleep, but it means they've been waiting for it. Wake up. What I heard something. Gwen listens, they wait, listen some more. I don't hear any scrunch. Something downstairs sounds like someone eating potato chips aggressively. Gwen sits up in bed. Did you hear? Did you hear? Shh. Gwen listens, strains, then a bang of dishes followed by a scratching sound. Right? And there's an arrow, and I didn't put this arrow here, casting put this here. Anytime you see something like this drawn in the script, it is casting's idea that they're trying to show you, okay, here's what we want with the scene. And so with something like this, they don't expect you to do this piece of action. Now I want to show you the difference between the version that somebody did back in 2009, when this was actually auditioning, and the version that Maddox did just a couple of days ago, where he did include some of this action. The interior hallway, Malloy home, night, Gwen and Finn ease onto the small staircase to the downstairs and stop by the wall. Gwen and Finn start to peer around the corner when they realize something enormous and heavy breathing is only inches away from them. Gwen yanks Finn back. Okay, so starts to peer around the corner. Oh my gosh, it's there. Press back against the wall, terrified. Try again, poke their heads around the corner. They see a whole bunch of devoured stuff, 2 enormous feet in front of the refrigerator. Gwen and Finn, she slaps a hand over Finn's mouth to contain his cry of terror. Now, even if you were going to skip this action entirely, knowing that Gwen is in, or that Finn is in terror, helps give you context for this piece of action that comes next. So he's in terror, and then we get the line, why do parents say no monsters? Wake up in the middle of the night, no monsters, find no monsters, when clearly there are monsters. If he's terrified, which you will see some of in Maddox's version of the tape, then the story makes a little bit more sense than if this is just information, which you'll see in the 2009 version of the tape. Finn, you're raving, I'm tired of lies. They creep down the stairs to the garage. They angle the hockey stick with the mirror. Gwen sees, right, looks like he's staying. He's making a den for himself in the basement. He's going to eat mom, holds back tears. Right, so here's another trap in the scene. I have said this before, but I think that it's useful to continue to revisit, is that these are typically written in so that the people reading the script can understand what the character is feeling. So actors often think, oh, this is the writer telling me exactly what they want me to feel. And that's typically not accurate. And especially not like, they're not trying to tell you exactly how to express the feeling. What the writer is doing the best, to the best of their ability, communicating to the person reading the script, here's how the character's feeling, right? And they put in these notes. And I worked at one point with a story editor, like the head of a team of writers on a show in Toronto, who said, I do a couple of versions of the script. I do one version that has all of those things that I can show producers, because otherwise producers read the script and they don't know how the character's feeling. And then I do another version for the actors and I take those out. I mean, not obviously, like, that's fairly unique. Not very many people do that second version without these notes for the actors. But I really appreciated knowing why this is here. It's because the person buying the script and approving the script is not necessarily a writer, is not necessarily somebody whose focus is story. It's somebody whose job it is to make TV shows and make money doing it. And the writer wants it to be clear to that person reading it, here's how the character is feeling. So if you are setting this up, right, easing onto the small staircase, yanking back, the first thing that I recommend doing with any piece of physical action is actually doing it. Now, let's see if I'm set up to stand. It's going to be a bad angle here, but if I'm being asked to do this piece of physical action, then the first thing that I'm going to try, if I'm rehearsing it, is, and I've got the whole from side to side of the screen, and I've got depth. This is something that I've really been playing with more in my classes and in my coaching sessions, that when you are working with Zoom, you have more control over the frame than you do otherwise. right? The camera operator is not going to follow you. And because you've got, whether you're seeing it big or small, you've got an easy way to see where the frame is. You can do something like get right up close to the camera for a moment if it's appropriate for the scene, right? So you could with this in a way that would be harder to do with an audition. Get right in. Hey, wake up, right? So it's an option that we don't have for film and TV auditions always because we don't know exactly where the camera operator is put the frame. So the piece where we sneak out into the hallway, I'm going to, if I'm setting this up for an audition, I'm going to place the person who I'm reading with on one side of the screen. So let's say that I'm reading with Lily. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag the window on my computer so that Lily is in the top right corner for me. From where I'm, it looks like I'm standing on the left and Lily's in the top right corner. So she's opposite me, so I've got all of this nose room in front of me. So that eye line is probably going to be the best. Now in this, I'd have to make a decision about eye lines, which one's going to be the troll, which one's going to be Gwen, because I think there's both significant eye lines. I'm going to place one there, I'm going to place one here. Now the reason that I don't put Lily in the middle of the screen is because if I do, the risk is that I'm going to look at her and it will look a lot like I'm looking directly into the camera lens. And you'll see this, I think, particularly in the 2009 tape, that it starts with the actor looking directly into the camera lens. It's distracting, even if it happens very briefly. So I have control. Great. I put that window over there. Now let's say that I decide that the most important thing in the scene is the fear. And so I'm going to, my alternate eye line, where I don't have a person outside the corner of the screen, I'm going to make that Gwen. Because most of the scene is going to be, I've decided that I'm going to be focused out here. Now, ideally, I would say try both and see which one fires you up. That's the benchmark for any kind of decision making, is that there's no right and wrong. There's just more effective and less effective. And you very often cannot know what is more or less effective without trying. So so I start by waking up my sister. Hey, wake up. Then we see the troll here in the corner. And if I'm going to do that exercise of trying all of the action, then maybe what I do is I actually do exactly what it says in the script, is I sneak to peek around the corner, and my sister pulls me back, and then we try again, and I see the thing, and I've got to take the moment of seeing the thing. Now, obviously that is imagination and imagery and acting and commitment, but also in a pure camera technique way, I can probably indicate that physically by taking a half step back. Right? So I lean over to see the monster, and if I do that, then that's going to save fear in a way that my face doesn't need to. And this is part of understanding what sort of story the camera makes out of physical movement. Right? And a retreat will often look like fear, especially if it's backed up with good acting. And so the sister pulls me back, peek out, see the troll. Oh God, I'm going to press myself back into the wall, even though I have a curtain, so I can't actually press on it. But I'm going to give myself the physicality because that helps me feel a little bit. Oh no, which I could do here out in the middle of the room. But honestly, that just, for my body, it doesn't do the same thing for me. If I have something, even just this curtain to press against, then I get more of that feeling in my body. You peek out of the thing again. Oh God, I'm gonna ask my sister, is it gonna eat Mom? Mostly my attention is gonna be on Lily, because Lily is the big scary monster. So I might try that. And then after doing it, I might be like, you know what, it feels like I'm milking it, it's too much. I'm gonna do the extreme, the much more simple version, or I'm just gonna do a look at the sister, the peek out, the freak out, talking to Gwen. And then maybe I'm gonna switch it. Maybe I will play with putting my eyeline for the eyeline for the troll on the other side. And maybe this seems mostly with Gwen, and I can play with that. So that would be my impulse looking at the script. of how to tell that story. And then once I'd tried it with the full physical action, you could simplify and simplify and simplify. You know, and if ultimately you had that story, you know, and it was enough to just hear the noise, oh God, I know there's a troll out there because I've seen in the script that we already know there's a troll coming. Okay. Yeah, personally, I think that it's a bigger risk to see the troll, yeah, and so it's probably more interesting to see on camera. But it's definitely about more effective and less effective, and not about, you know, here's the right choice to make and here's the wrong choice to make in this situation. So let's take a look at the 2009 version of the scene, and then let's take a look at Maddox's version of the scene. Just give me one moment to get my technology going. So here's the 2009 version.
Wake up! What? I heard something. I don't hear anything. Did you hear? Did you hear? Shh! Why do parents say, no monsters? Wake up in the middle of the night. No monsters, Ben. No monsters. Clearly, there are monsters.
Then you're raving.
Tired of the lies. Is he gonna eat Mom?
No, not Mom. This might work. Nice job, Finn.
Nice job.
So this brave actor has put this up on YouTube and left it there, presumably because they are not particularly bothered. I mean, this was a long time ago, and so I very much doubt we would recognize this guy anymore. He's probably 25 by now. You can see that partly because there is not very much eye light, the eye lines are a little bit confusing, that he just goes right through the whole scene without any action. The only movement that we saw was a little bit of unconscious rocking from foot to foot. And so this is the version of the scene without any of the physicality. Now he's got a nice clean backdrop, which we've talked about. His eye line is at least close to the camera, and I think there was that moment at the beginning of the scene, you know, where he it certainly looked like he was looking directly into the lens. But it's possible, and it's possible that that's as simple as like he was looking at the reader, and the reader moved over behind the camera for a moment and back, and he just didn't even think about it. It can happen so easily. And the frame is good, you know, head to just below the armpits. Yeah, so those are all the things that we've been talking about in the camera lessons. You know, frame, eye lines, eye lights. The more complex stuff, I think, is using the camera to tell the story, and so that's what we've been delving into. Now here is the version that Maddox sent this morning. So already you can see some much better eye light. You know, he's using the width of the frame more, right? So he's positioned himself off on the side, so there's a little bit more room to move, and we're going to see two different clear eye lines. He's also taking his time a lot more.
Wake up! What? I heard something. I don't hear. Did you hear? Did you hear? Shh. Why do parents say no monsters? Wake up in the middle of the night. No monsters, Finn. No monsters. When clearly there are monsters. You're raving. I'm tired of the lies. Is it gonna eat Mom? No. This might work. Nice job, Finn. Nice job.
Okay, so we've got all this good emotional range to the scene, right? He's understanding the story and playing with it. You can see that the eye line for and Maddox. Is it all right if I talk a little bit about some of the camera technique things that I'm seeing here? Yeah. So I just love that you felt brave and sent this to us, because it helps the lesson, and hopefully it helps land it for you as well. So like I said, framing, super solid, right? A little bit closer than the other frame. Eye light, much better. Background's nice and clean. The shadow, doesn't bother me at all. Like it's still, going to be better than 90% of any home tapes they get. Like not a thing to worry about. The eye line for Gwen and then the eye line for the troll are on the same side of the camera. And so on a pure camera level, if you had those two really clear different emotional relationships, which you did have, but you placed one of them on the other side of the camera. And this is one of the things that I really recommend with eye lines, is that you have the person who is the most important to you usually be the person who's your reader, whether that's by Zoom or in real life, and the other thing, the other person or the other things in the scene placed just the other side of the camera, because it's not a big movement physically. When you are moving, so if there's my camera, so this side to this side, it's very, very small in terms of my movement, but because my eyes go from this side of the screen to that side of the screen, it's crystal clear for the people watching that I'm looking at two different things that I have two different emotional relationships with. So camera-wise, highly recommend that you essentially think of your tapes as having two eye lines. The person I'm talking to the most, or that is the most important to me, and then one eye line that's directly the other side of the camera. If there's going to be a third eye line, somebody pops in for a moment in another place, then sure, maybe I put them all the way over there. But to keep those eye lines close, it's going to make you look like a more skilled actor, because we're going to see more of your eyeballs. Okay, let's move on to the Penosa scene. And this one, it's seated. All of you are already seated, so you're fine. And I'm gonna we're gonna look at it, and then I'm gonna talk you through spontaneously kissing your reader and get you to try it, so you can feel how horribly awkward it feels. But you can also see that, like with many things when you're doing something on camera, it feels super weird, and it actually doesn't look bad at all. Lily, you might want to move into a medium close-up for this. Right now, you are far back enough from the camera that this is more like we're seeing just your head and shoulders, but it's more like a medium shot. So like you just, exactly, physically move closer. Okay, it's gonna take me a moment to find that script. There we go. So this is from Penosa, which when I looked it up on IMDb, it said Black Widow, sort of formerly known as Penosa. It was casting it here in town quite some time ago. And so it says 2012. So good old one. It means none of the writers are going to get grumpy at us for sharing the script online. Interior Kat and Joe's apartment, kitchen night. Joe finishes the last of the dishes. Natalie's resumed sketching. Joe peers over her shoulder to see the sketch. Great technique, leaning over her, pointing. Especially over here, the shading, nice contrast. His face is right next to hers, but he's completely surprised when she kisses him. He backs away fast. Wow, that's not even remotely okay. I'm sorry, Joe, I love you. Joe, completely shaken, hurries out. Off Natalie, mortified. Okay, so we're not going to spend a lot of time looking at the story or the style, but if you're playing Natalie, then with that same idea, probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to set myself up close to one side of the frame, so everybody scooch over to one side or the other. And I'm going to put my book on the opposite side. Right, so my book is, or my drawing is there. And you'll see, okay, there's the edge of the frame, great. So I'm gonna put it up a little bit higher. Now I have a desk in front of me, and so my temptation is to do the real thing and put it on the desk. But what's gonna happen there is you're gonna get just the top of my head, you're not gonna get my eyeballs. So instead, I'm gonna take my wee pad of paper and pencil, and I don't think that it is a problem to use extraordinarily simple props. I would just say, keep them extraordinarily simple. A pen, paper, uh, a glass or a bottle, a sweater, these kinds of things. Exactly. These kind of things will make your audition better. However, if you're supposed to be twirling batons, or I don't know, playing with your pet rooster, just don't. Even if you happen to have a pet rooster, probably don't bring it into the audition tape, because we're likely to watch the rooster. We're gonna be like, oh my God, Hannah has a pet rooster? That's so weird. I mean, the character does too, but look at her rooster. And we're going to do that instead of looking at your face. So you want to keep props really simple. And in the context of an actual film and TV audition, my feeling is that props, it should look like this is what you already had with you in the waiting room. So it never crosses their mind to think, oh my God, did Lily go out and get those ruby slippers specially for this audition? Like, shouldn't she be focused on her acting instead? Um, the this is a little bit of an aside, but let me see if I can pull this up. This morning, I was looking at the scripts for the NCIS open call audition. Did any of you doing that, or did any of you do the NCIS open call? Maddox did, and Hannah as well. Josh, Lily, it's worth. Oh, you did it as well. Yeah, you all okay? Good. So you all know what I'm talking about. And in one of the scripts, they had this: uniforms and fatigues may be distracting and are not recommended. Right. So they went through this, which I've rarely seen anything like this in an audition. So it's interesting. They must have a lot of people just like utterly fail on looking military, to have spelled it out so clearly. But this idea of, this is not me saying it. This is the NCIS audition sides from whatever year this particular one is from. But this came on over and over again. Uniforms and fatigues are distracting and not recommended. It just basically means that maybe you want to dress in character a little bit, something to give a sense of the character, but you don't want to go all the way. Yeah, Josh, go ahead and jump in. Oh, sorry, I got on.
So I haven't actually auditioned for this. I was just moving my hair, just to let you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so if you're playing the character who has to like spontaneously kiss the person who's giving them art help, right? You've got the pad in your hand, you bring it up to the edge of the frame, okay, just down, and maybe I want to play with having it in the edge of the frame or not, but the reason I'm having it here is because of my eyes. Then I'm going to move my screen, the person that I'm looking at, so that they're in the corner, so I get to look at a real human instead of looking at a dot. I start here, and then the acting side of it, of course, there's got to be the relationship and the moment of decision. But on a pure camera technique, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I can see myself, and then I'm going to lean out of the frame and then come back. And that's enough. Right? So try it. Right? And exactly, just whatever side you're on. Exactly. And I wouldn't recommend making kissy noises, because when I do that, it will sound odd, right? If I go, mwah, it's unnecessary. Like, we already got the point. Unless that is more effective for me, unless it makes me feel, then I don't think it's necessary. Instead, it's the like lunge forward. Now to use the camera, especially because it's this sort of like spontaneous, like have the impulse, just go for it thing. I might practice it a couple of times so that I could do it fast. So it's just like, I gaze adoringly at the person I'm talking to. This is funny because I'm in that corner of the screen right now, so I'm gazing adoringly at myself, which is just feels odd. So the gaze adoringly at them, and then I come back. And then the trick, acting wise, after that, of course, is to just bring in the feeling as if. And what you will often see in, particularly around intimacy, around if there's like a kiss or a hug or something like that, is that you can just invite the feeling into your body. And that does work. With something like this, where her kissing him is so important to telling the story, I would say that you could, while you could be like, it just happened, you're just better off knowing where the edge of the frame is. Now, if you're in a film and TV audition, you could just say to the camera operator, "Hey, where's my frame?" You know, and I would say like, hold up a hand so they can be like, "Yeah, it's there." You go, okay. When I do the kiss, I'm gonna lean out of frame and come right back. Because what'll happen is if you don't say that in a film and TV audition, the real risk is that the camera operator will follow you. Right? That's their job. Their only job is to follow you with the camera. Yeah, good. That's a great experiment, Maddox. Right? If you go forward, you're like doesn't quite tell the same story, right? You know, what we want is like with so much physical action to just keep it outside the frame. And as long as it's outside the frame, the audience can completely believe that it's happened if you're doing your job as an actor of bringing in that as though this has happened, it's been real. Okay, so those are our 2 scripts, our camera lesson. Tomorrow, we are going to talk confidence and preparation. Wednesday, we've got a story lesson, yeah, and I'm going to try and do a recap of what felt successful last week with the Actors Challenge, is bring in a couple of one-page scripts that have physical action in them, so that then we can analyze them together and look at the emotional arc, etc. And then anybody who wants to can tape them, and then we can look at them in the camera lesson the following week. Thursday, we're going to be talking industry, and I have not yet picked a topic for that. So I would really appreciate your recommendations. If you're like, hey, there's this industry thing we have not yet talked about that I want to know more about, please send those my way, throw them in the chat window, send me an email, post them on the Facebook group, whatever you like. And then Friday, we'll have Jackie and Lynn coming in. All right, I am unmuting all of you. Do any of you have questions before we wrap for today? Yeah, Josh.
So when it comes to like a kissing scene, but the person comes to kiss you instead of you going to kiss them, are you just supposed to kind of, I don't know, like, or just react to that?
Yes, at that point, you play with it on camera, but just reacting as though you have been kissed is often enough.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you do that on camera and it just doesn't work for you, then you can imagine something like they take your hand and it's very, and there's something about that that just feels really special to you. So you're like, right? And there's a moment of, wow, oh, like you grabbed my hand,
Right.
right? So remember that the sort of top level thing with physical action is try exactly what's in the script or modify it so that whatever is happening happens outside of the frame.
Okay.
Right. And then I would say, like, the third option is, behave or react as though it has happened. And that can often move the story forward just fine.
Okay, great. Thank you.
My pleasure. Great. Thanks for making time to join us today. And thank you again, Maddox, for being brave and first like taking the time to make the tape, but then letting us look at it together. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.